So this slide goes with the Desmos activity we were doing today as part of lesson 2. This was slide number 7. And basically we were asked to figure out which triangle is congruent to triangle PQR. So this is my original triangle, PQR. Notice that I've labeled it down here. And then we want to know which one is congruent to it. Is it going to be ACE? So I'm going to label ACE. And where did I get that? I got that right off the slide. Or triangle MNL. Okay, so that means that if I look at triangle PQR, that P and M need to be corresponding and P and A have to be corresponding. Just like C has to correspond with Q, and N has to correspond with Q, and R has to correspond with L, and R has to correspond with E. So that helps me map and get everything lined up. So I'm going to go ahead and color code them just so you see what I've done. Okay, you can see that I've circled all of the corresponding letters that go with PQR. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to note the side length or the angle A corresponds to the angle P, which corresponds to angle M. And I'm going to note in blue that it should have been blue, that these angle measurements are all the same. All right, so I know that that lines up correctly. Now I'm going to look at the line segment between CE because I've got green is C, purple is E. So that means I'm looking for the line segment on PQR that corresponds with the same color combinations. And I'm going to note that I've got 4.3. So again, I am going to use, I'll use yellow. So I've got 4.3 and 4.3 and 4.3. Those are all corresponding because they all sit between the two colors of green and purple. This is how I visually have to do this. All right, so the last thing is I've got that 5.9, and I'm going to note that 5.9 right here sits between P and Q, which means I've got to go over here and look for blue and green. Blue, green, there's 5.9. Okay, great. And between blue and green, 5.9. Awesome. All right, now what do I do? Well, everything kind of lines up, but take a look. I have got a side length that has no color or no measurement, no anything on it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually try to figure out, and there we go. I am going to go in and use orange. So between A and E, that's between purple and blue. And I've got R and P, or P and R. And what else do I have? I've got L and M. Okay, so I want you to look at those orange segments that I just drew. Do they look to be the same length? Well, when I was drawing them, they weren't the same length. I didn't spend as much time on A through E. So just to verify, what I did was I actually went in and I measured them. I took a ruler, I held it up to my screen, and this is what I found out. I know the distance between A and E is 3.5. I know the distance between P and R is 4.3. And the distance between L and M is 4.3. Now let me ask you something. If on that Desmos slide, if we would have given you those side lengths, would it have been easier for you to figure out which one is congruent? I think so. So anyway, so this is where we sometimes have to use our intuition. We have to use, tools. You could use a ruler. Notice I used a ruler. I pulled it out and I measured it because I wasn't quite sure. The use of color really helps me out here because it helps me map things easier. So now I want to look at this next slide. And now we've got this figure right here. This is a parallelogram, but actually the parallelogram, it's actually two triangles that have been rotated. And I am now looking at slide number 10 on this Desmos activity. And basically it asks you, it says, okay, triangle ABD is a rotation of triangle CDB. So what that means is I started with triangle CDB. So CDB is what I started with right there. And I rotated it around E right here. And what did I end up with? I ended up with triangle ABD. So I'm going to change colors, A, B, D, right there. All right, now, what else does it ask me? It says I want to know, is angle ADB? So I'm going to do this in orange, ADB. So ADB is this angle right there. Is this congruent to angle CDB? I'm going to draw this one. Are these two congruent? Well, I'm going to do some investigating before I start answering that question. And I'm going to basically do the following. I know that I've got triangle CDB. And I know that it was rotated. Therefore, I have a congruency. So I know that the congruent triangle is triangle ABD. Okay? Because I was given that information, triangle ABD is a rotation of triangle CDB around point E. So there is your rigid transformation. It was rotated 180 degrees. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some correspondence based on that. I know that C and A are corresponding. So I'm going to circle C and A. I'm also going to correspond D and B. D, B. Okay, right here. And what else? B and D. Well, because they're reflection and they, remember that they share a common side. So there are my two triangles. So now I want you to think about this. C mapped to A when I rotated it. Okay, and what happened, take a look, what happened, D, let me use orange. D rotated to B. Okay, so, and what else do we note? We know that, what else? If you look at the triangles, and I'm going to see if I can do this in red. CD, right here, I'm going to draw a circle around it. And AB are corresponding. CD, right here, and AB are corresponding, meaning they mapped. All right, so now, if that's the case, A is ADB congruent to CDB? It can't be. It can't be. Because this got rotated, so therefore, what is the angle that is congruent? this right here, and I'm going to make it yellow, this angle, ADB, is congruent to C right here, BD. Those two are the congruent statements. Because remember, this was a rotation, so things got rotated around. It wasn't a reflection. So you have to make sure if I rotate, then I can physically turn and rotate it. So that's why, again, the use of color really, truly helps in this case. So now the last one that we want to look at is this polygon shape right there. And this is related to slide number 11. So in slide number 11, it asks you, I've got the original, it says polygon HIJKL is a reflection and a translation of polygon GFONM. So what did I start with? I started with GFONM. I'm going to write that right here. GFONM. And it got reflected and translated to become HIJKL. So notice what I did. I lined up all the figures, right? And I could even go in and I can highlight them and say, I'm going to make G and H the same color. So G and H are the same. I'm going to line up F and I. So I'm going to make that yellow. F and I. Let's go, I've already used purple. Let's use green. Let's go O and J. O and J. And then N and K. Let's make that dark blue. N and K. And then the last two are, let's see here. Let's make that, I'll make it brown. M and L. All right, so all I did was I translated and reflected. All right, now we want to know, is segment KJ? So KJ, got to find that one first. Let's make that red. All right, JK is right here. Is that congruent to NM? Okay, well, the very first thing I want you to notice is the color. So J and K, and I've got N and M, two different colors. I also want you to note here, J and K. I'm going to underline it there, and I'm going to underline it there. They're in a different location on the lettering, right? So this is not congruent. NM is not congruent to JK. So which one is it congruent to? If not, which segment is NM congruent to? So now we're looking at NM again, right here. So which one is it congruent to? I want to see if you can figure that out on your own. Well, I hope you figured out that NM is congruent to KL. And notice that I put it in that order. N comes first, maps to K, L and M map. Right there, see? So NM, KL. All right. I hope this kind of clarified everything for this lesson. The corresponding parts. That's why I really stress the importance of using colored pencils to help you out.